Massive topic across the world, but a continued topic that must be had around the situation in Gaza, of course, following the October 7th attack and then continued military action within Gaza. But let's now head from a Middle Eastern conflict to a European conflict, as 27 European heads of state and governments say that Ukrainians must have the freedom to decide their future and that a diplomatic solution must protect Ukrainian and European interests. Meaningful negotiations can only take place in the context of a ceasefire or reduction of hostilities. That was a comment from a statement from the leaders. They also added, "We share the conviction that a diplomatic solution must protect Ukraine's and Europe's vital security interests." The statement, agreed late on Monday and published on Tuesday, was endorsed by leaders of all EU member countries except from Hungary. Well, joining us live to discuss these comments and the wider ramifications as the Russia-Ukraine war hits a vital moment of discussion and diplomacy over moving towards peace. Thomas Porteous, anchor and correspondent from the newsroom. Thomas, let's first look at this joint statement that has been released. I want to pick out a couple of key points here, not just mentioning Ukraine's security, but also Europe's security. Do you think that European security in the face of perceived Russian aggression from a European point of view is a priority now that the war has gone on for so long?
Well, of course it is, Josh. Europe has been very outspoken about it still seeing Russia as very much a threat to the rest of the European continent. We've seen Keir Starmer, we've seen Emmanuel Macron voice this openly, that they think that Russia continues to be a threat to Europe as a whole. Vladimir Putin is a staunch admirer of the Soviet Union and believes that the collapse of the Soviet Union is one of the biggest tragedies ever to happen in history. Also, we have to bear in mind, however, that most of the European nations are part of NATO in this regard. So the North Atlantic Treaty Organization does cover around over 25 nations in Europe. And so we do have that. That, of course, was one of the reasons for the war. Ukraine was becoming very close to joining NATO. However, yes, European security, a top priority. People have compared this to appeasement back in the war, if territorial, back in the Second World War, which led to Hitler invading Poland. A lot of European powers say that if territory is conceded, given to Putin, given his invasion, this is being seen as conceding to Putin. And European powers are very much worried that if Vladimir Putin can take parts of Ukraine and be allowed to do that, then what can he do next?
Yes, and Thomas, let's look at some information that we brought earlier in the day. European leaders and potentially Volodymyr Zelensky hoping and planning to speak to Donald Trump before that meeting with Putin in Alaska on Friday the 15th. Do you think this is a last-ditch attempt for Europe to get their message across before Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump are in their own confines and can construct a deal that might not have European and Ukrainian interests at the key?
Well, as you've spoken about previously, Ukraine's sovereignty is what is the biggest worry here. There's no doubt that when Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump meet in Alaska, there will be photos, there will be showmanship. However, what's going to be on people's mind is if Ukraine is going to have a point in this discussion. We've talked about this. Russia is around 55 miles from Alaska, where Donald Trump are having this discussion. However, Ukraine is over 5,000 miles away from where Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin will be having this conversation. And so these two leaders talking about a war that's 5,000 miles away and possibly conceding, letting land go to Russia that's over 5,000 miles away is worrying to a lot of nations, including Europe. And so, of course, there is huge worries here that Donald Trump will possibly warm to Vladimir Putin once again.
Yes, and Thomas, let's look now at that meeting. We've skirted around it, but of course this is pivotal, a meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin that has been a long time coming, but of course with no Ukrainian representation. Donald Trump saying that he will do his best to try and get Ukrainian land back, but in the same breath saying that that Ukraine and Russia will both need to cede land. But Ukraine doesn't really control any of Russia. So what's your thoughts and insight on these comments?
Well, yeah, as you said, Russia currently controls around 20% of Ukrainian territory. Over a 4-year period, that's what they've managed to gain. They are continuing to make small gains, of course. However, Donald Trump has touted that both sides will in fact make concessions in this war. You do have to bear in mind that Russia does see Crimea, of course, as part of its territory, which the United Nations and the international community does not. But it's hard to see Moscow conceding any territory to Ukraine, given the current circumstances on the battlefield.
Thomas Porteous, thank you for all of that insight. Of course, all eyes are